this afternoon to celebrate the tremendous service and support you give the metropolitan government and our residents. What a past 18 months it has been. As 2020 began, I don't think any of us could have imagined what was ahead of us. After 30, 35, 40, and even 45 years working here at Metro, I bet most of us thought we had seen it all. And then March 2020 happened, and it seemed like the whole world shut down. And for a moment, it did. But our residents still needed us and needed you. They needed all the essential services we provide every day, like assistance during an emergency, legal and public safety assistance, clean water, sanitation services, health services during this pandemic. Our departments and employees needed IT assistance to perform their jobs and needed benefits for the health challenges we were all facing. Many desperately needed assistance to stay in their homes as jobs were lost, and we looked to you. As the most experienced members in our organization, departments and newer employees looked to you. You demonstrated courage, commitment, and leadership to help us move forward and to get all our essential needs met. And for that, we are forever grateful. This is a unique Metro Service Award ceremony. As we continue our thanks and gratitude, I welcome my close personal friend, colleague, and long-term Metro employee, Ron Denton, for our invocation.
Good afternoon. Are you glad to be here? I'm glad you're here. Let's stand. We're going to talk a minute. Looking around the room, I expressed myself this morning to the group that looking around the room, I could see my years and journey down the road because there's so many familiar faces and paths have crossed and friendships have been made. And I told the group this morning, I said, we are part of a great group and a great family. Because if you're part of this government, we are akin in some form or fashion because we have worked here this long. Are you glad that you're here? Are you glad you had the opportunity to come here? Look at the person next to you and said, I have made it this far. Now look at the person next to you and say, you ain't changed a bit. I think we've all changed just a little. But I'm grateful and thankful to be here, and I know you are too, especially when you've been here 30, 35, and 40 years. We're creatures of habits, and some habits will be hard to break. But we are glad that you're here today because we as a people, I'm speaking as the one that still lives here. Laugh a little bit, I still live here. Appreciate what our employees do. And sometimes we get a backlash from we don't do anything, you know, that kind of stuff. But if we didn't have you all, where would we be? We'd be in a difficult situation today. So I'm thankful for you here, and I know the mayor's thankful for you, and every citizen should be thankful for you. Now let's ask the Lord to help us today. Father, we thank you for this time, this place, and your people that's come together in this room. We're thankful because we're a part of this Metro family. We're thankful because we've had opportunities along the way to come here and reap the benefits of being here. We're thankful that we live in this city, and we're thankful that you have blessed this city. I ask that you guide and direct the leadership of this city as we move forward, that would be a people pleasing to you and everyone that comes here. Help us to be faithful above anything and everything. Help us to be faithful to our calls and our responsibilities and our duties as we do the daily task that is laid before us. Keep us in your grace and your mercy. Put your hand of protection around those who sacrifice daily when they come to this place of employment. Those that are in harm's way at any moment in time. Keep them. Help us to be a wonderful place, a good community. We give you praise for everything that's been said, done today, and those faithful people that will receive today. And everybody in the house will say, Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Ron, for those wonderful and supportive words. It is now my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you Mayor John Cooper.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hope I can you hear me in the back? This is a very important group to me and to the city. It's just an honor to be here because, and I want to thank Chief Swan, and I think Director Potter is here, and Chief Drake, I think, is there in the back. Okay, so I'm feeling very well looked after with all of you all here. I mean, Metro is a family, and you're the most important part of that family. The other day I was at a memorial for Charlie Cardwell, who's here for 62 years. I think that probably is the all-time record. But he was an elder member of the family, the same family that we're part of, and his dedication created confidence. His service created confidence in the community, and that's what you are creating every day. And I've got to say, I know there are a lot of people 30 years, there's some 40 years, 30 years. 1991 was just a great draft year for Nashville, Tennessee, to use a football. Because we have just a surprisingly large number of people who've served the city for 30 years. That's a great achievement. That's hard to do. I don't think there are other cities that have that. And we are a successful city because of you. Now, we're very successful these days. You know, the Urban Land Institute has Nashville at #1 in something called investor demand. And what that means is not only do people want to come here, they want to send their money here. And as a friend of mine was saying, we'd rather have their money, I guess, than them. But that's a national thing. It's unprecedented. It's unexpected to me. But part of that momentum is going to allow us, if we work together, to have the best possible future. We have to be a city that our kids and our grandkids thank us for. Now, there was an urbanist, you know, I'm from the era I never really thought that an urbanist would come to Nashville to speak about urban policies that much. You know, big city, big town, big county seat town policies, but a city. Came and he said an interesting thing. He said the most important decision you make in your life ends up being where you live. Now, your spouse is very important too, but your spouse and who you meet and who becomes your spouse is very determined by where you live. That's where you're going to have the economic opportunity. That's where you're going to have the community connection. That's where your life is going to be meaningful, is from where you live. And Nashville, people voting with their feet and with their money, are believing that Nashville is the best possible place to live in America. Well, now, that is a big challenge, and you all are delivering in that challenge because we're a very complicated country. MNPS is dealing with more than 100 languages. You and your day jobs, you know, deal with languages and diversity and community. And you know, only in America are we really getting that done. This is not a challenge that other countries have because we still have opportunity and we still are on the rise. We still can, I think, create greatness for our families and our futures, and we can do it across the community, and we can rise all boats in this tide. But you're the reason people want to live here, and that means we have to be a city that works and also works for everybody. So that whole defund the police craziness, I think that has passed, fortunately, in America. We're not going to be a city that defunds the police. We're a city that needs to invest in public safety. Till our homicide rate is down so low that the victims and their families alone deserve the respect to keep investing and to get it right. Now, are we confident enough as a city to say we can always learn? Well, that's what you're here. Your experience. Let's get your experience on the line to tell us every day, how do we do it a little bit better? And when we stop trying to be better, well then, like any football team, then you're not going to have a great season if that's your attitude. But we have to listen to experience. We have to listen to you to become a better town. Now, this is also a hard era. I mean, I'm probably older than everybody here, so I can say I remember this whole social media thing. It's not a very healthy thing, really, in the end. I mean, it's the future and everything, but you combine being anonymous with isolation, and then the sources of information themselves are fractured. If all that anybody knows about a city is what they read on somebody else's Twitter account, you're not really having all the facts. But what do you have to? You have to survive that. I mean, we have to reinforce a community that has strong schools and strong churches and strong neighborhoods and are there for each other. And that's hard to model for people. That's hard to show them what that's like. But you know who does that every day? You do. People can look at you and be inspired and learn and go, we can still be a connected community. We still look after each other. When I pick up the phone and somebody comes to help me, they are professional and they are nice and they are understanding of my problems. And I feel better as a Nashvilleian, as an American, because your professionalism and service is inspiring confidence. Now, all of you all have been here for about half the length of all of Metro, which is pretty amazing. And the success of Metro is driving us into a 21st century that, again, I think our kids and grandkids will be proud of us. And what happened in the last 18 months? Look at what you've done. Tornado, a reshow, a bombing, a courthouse was burned, a pandemic, and quite a difficult pandemic. You know, I mean, nobody quite knew what this disease was. When it first was headed to Tennessee, it seemed like there was a 6% death rate. That's what there was in New York. And that 70% of the people would get it. Well, were we prepared for 35 to 40,000 deceased people, which seemed to be was coming our way? Well, who responded? You responded. You helped give the community confidence that we could survive even that. Now, in the end, it wasn't that bad, thank goodness. But that's a strong community that can look something like that in the eye, which we did, and manage it to an okay outcome. You know, in the end, we're going to have 1,000 people, a little bit more, who will have died in Nashville. I do think, in the end, with vaccinations and treatment and et cetera, that people, even people that get very sick, the mortality rate is not that great. But in that ultimate moment between, I think, March of 2020 through April and May and June and July, it was the confidence that we had in you, in our public safety folks, that people fundamentally was like, well, they'll get us through somehow. Sometimes I wonder with the chief or Chief Drake or Swan, you know, it would have been a challenging time. Imagine having the Music City Center be a 1,600-bed acute hospital. It's a big facility. Who would have even staffed it? Well, we would have staffed it. You would have staffed it. our public service, our public health frontline workers there when we know we need to count on them. And ultimately, what is that? It's a resilient city. Quite a word, but I think we've proved it. The only way we prove it is with you, by you, from you, who we owe so much to. So thank you. It's a great achievement. It's a great achievement for the city. I'm just so proud of today's program. I don't think other cities have anything close to that. I think the idea of us being a community and bringing all kinds of people together in service for a long period of time is something that other cities don't have. Yes, they have senior employees too, but we really have a bunch, and it makes it work. And nobody in my position can ever say enough in gratitude, because you get up every morning and you drink that extra cup of coffee and you get down to work, and you, like I am, have a service requirement that everybody is important. You can't really say no to anybody. You can coach a little bit, but they're all citizens. They're all our bosses. They all deserve to be listened to, even though their opinions sometimes can make it kind of difficult. That's a special calling to have the discipline to be able to be servants. And in your life, it's not, the pay should be higher, Shannon, I'm sure, and the thanks is never enough. But again, Dr. King always had a question that he would put to people that I think is worth saying. Life's deepest question for all of us is, what are you doing for others? And most people out in the world have a hard time answering that question. Maybe they can for their family members or a limited group. But what are you doing for others? And it's my honor to be in a room full of people that you don't have to reach to answer that question. You spent your whole life doing for others. And I hope that is some comfort in the career in the past and in the future. And know that in Nashville, thanks goes with that too. But it's a great thing to have a room full of people that have answered life's big question. What have you done for others? And each one of you could sit people down and say, do you have the time to let me tell you what I've done for others? What every police officer does almost every shift that they serve, where every fire hall has a large number of specific answers to that, and it's great that you all do, and it's an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Mayor Cooper, thank you for those inspiring and insightful words. We're now going to recognize and honor our honorees today. When I call out the department, if I can have the honorees line up over here, we'll call you up one by one so that you can be formally recognized and take your picture with the mayor and department head. First up will be the fire department. Our first honoree is Stan Bailey with 30 years of service. Kennard Blackburn with 35 years of service. Gregory Burgess with 35 years of service. Gwendolyn Darr with 30 years of service. Floyd Garman with 35 years of service. Paul Gilmer Jr. with 40 years of service. Timothy Henderson with 35 years of service. Timothy Holmes with 30 years of service. Larry Jackson Jr. with 35 years of service. Drusilla Martin with 30 years of service. Timothy Moyers with 35 years of service. And Edith Walker with 35 years of service. The Police Department. Our first honoree is Mark Bennett with 30 years of service. Charles Bowles with 30 years of service. Donald Davidson with 35 years of service. Scott Hull with 40 years of service. James Johnson with 35 years of service. Cheryl Kinderdine with 30 years of service. Wilfred Klocksback Jr. with 35 years of service. Mark Longmire with 30 years of service. Loretta Marsh with 30 years of service. Robert Morris with 30 years of service. Elizabeth Faye Oker with 30 years of service. Jeanette Gail Reed with 30 years of service. Michelle Richter with 30 years of service. William Rowland with 35 years of service. John Singleton Jr. with 30 years of service. And William Sneed with 40 years of service. Metro Water Services. Our first honoree from Metro Water Services is James Akers with 35 years of service. Terry Charlton with 35 years of service. Mose Job Jr. with 35 years of service. Tyrone Jolly with 30 years of service. Barbara McKissack with 35 years of service. James Ray with 35 years of service. Lisa Russell with 35 years of service. James Snyder with 35 years of service. Melissa Sterry with 35 years of service. And last but certainly not least, Mildred Lynn Young with 35 years of service. And if you would, just join me in another warm round of applause for all our honorees. On behalf of Mayor Cooper and the Metro Human Resources team, thank you so much for the service you provide to us every single day. You actually make a huge difference in our community. Please join us for refreshments. As I mentioned before, we have lunch, drinks for you, your guests, department heads, whomever's here. So please join us. If you're able to stay, please feel free to do so. If you have to just grab one and leave, we completely understand. But thank you for everything you do every day.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.